What if the next 30 years of your life don't depend on pills, procedures, or promises, but on something far simpler? Something you already have within you, waiting to be awakened, every morning. At first, it may sound unbelievable. We're conditioned to think that aging is a steady decline, a narrowing of possibility, not a widening. But let me tell you a story. It's not just about science or health or habits. It's about one decision. A decision you can make every single morning that determines not just how long you live, but how fully. Margaret didn't think she'd live to see 70. She was 67, living alone in a small house she and her husband once shared. Her days were quiet. Too quiet. She'd wake up to the sound of her alarm, shuffle to the bathroom, and stare at her reflection. The face looking back was tired, not just from age but from emptiness. Her joints ached, her mind felt foggy, and her heart carried a weight that the pills on her dresser couldn't lift. Her doctor kept adjusting her medications but not her mood. Her calendar was blank. Her mornings felt like ghosts of the past. And her nights were just reminders that another day had passed without purpose. Then one morning something changed. Not dramatically. Not with fireworks or some epiphany. It started with a memory, something her husband used to say. The morning decides the man. Or in her case, the woman. It echoed in her mind that morning louder than usual. She sat at the edge of her bed and instead of reaching for her robe, she looked out the window. The sun was just beginning to rise. Birds were fluttering about, doing what they always did, but this time she noticed. Something stirred in her. Not energy exactly, but curiosity. That same week, she watched a documentary on a group of people living in a small village in Sardinia, Italy. Most of them were over 90. Many over 100. Yet they woke up with energy. With excitement. Some still farmed. Others danced. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They weren't surviving, they were thriving. And it made her wonder, how is it possible that people well into their 90s and 100s had more vitality than she did at 67? She began to look deeper. Not into miracle drugs or fancy machines but into stories. Real lives. She read about people in Japan's Okinawa Islands who lived long not just because of what they ate or how they moved, but because of how they began each day. There was something sacred in how they greeted the morning. Not rushed. Not stressed. But intentional. Gratitude, breath, movement, connection. These weren't chores. They were choices. Margaret made a quiet vow to herself that night. Tomorrow, I won't just wake up. I'll begin. The next morning, she opened her eyes and instead of dreading the day, she whispered a thank you. It felt strange at first. Silly even. But she said it anyway. She sat up slowly, listening to her own breathing. She watched the sunlight crawl across the wall. She stepped outside for the first time before 9 a.m. in months. The air was crisp. She didn't walk far, just around her garden. But something happened. The silence she once found suffocating now felt like space. Space to think. To feel. To notice. It didn't change everything overnight. But it started something. She began waking up earlier not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She started noticing how different her body felt when she began her day with presence rather than pressure. She started preparing her own breakfast with care. Not rushed, not distracted, just simply present. And as days turned to weeks, her energy began to return, not in leaps but in soft waves. The stiffness eased. Her thoughts cleared. Her mornings, once gray and repetitive, became colorful, alive. Fast forward 3 years and Margaret, now 70, joins a walking group every Wednesday. She's the oldest in the group, but no one notices. She doesn't lead with her age. She leads with her energy. She laughs more. Sleeps better. Her doctor cut her prescriptions in half. But the real medicine? It was this. She stopped treating her mornings like something to survive, and started treating them like something to savor. And she's not alone. Around the world, scientists have been studying what are called blue zones, regions where people regularly live past 100. They don't have high-tech gyms or celebrity trainers. But they do have something in common. They all begin their days with intention, connection, and care. Not because someone told them to, but because their culture has long known something we often forget, that how you start your day is how you shape your life. For those of us over 65, this truth matters more than ever. Because mornings can become a burden. The body feels slower, the world feels louder, and the temptation is to withdraw. But every day you wake up is a new opportunity to rise, not just from your bed but from your past. From the labels. From the noise. From the belief that it's too late. Because it's not. Not even close. There's something powerful about waking up with the idea that the best part of your life might not be behind you, but ahead. that you still have stories to write, people to love, moments to feel. But those things don't arrive by accident. They arrive through awareness. And awareness begins in the morning. Think of your morning as a quiet conversation with your soul. It doesn't need to be loud or productive or filled with to-do lists. It just needs to be yours. When you take a few moments each morning to listen, to your body, your breath, the birds outside your window, you send a message to yourself: I am here. I matter. I'm still becoming. The elderly in Costa Rica's Nicoya Peninsula live longer not because they chase youth, but because they honor age. They move naturally in the mornings, often tending to plants or preparing food. But the power isn't in the task, it's in the attention. Their lives are not filled with luxury, but with something far more rare: presence. In America, we often rush to the finish line even in retirement. We think rest means stopping. But real rest is about restoration, not stagnation. Your mornings can restore you. They can remind you that the clock isn't your enemy, it's your partner. That time doesn't just pass, it gives. So what does this mean for you? It means that starting tomorrow, you don't need to overhaul your entire life. You don't need to start running marathons or take cold showers or drink green smoothies, unless you want to. What you need is something more powerful and more personal. You need a reason to rise. And that reason doesn't need to be big. It could be as simple as noticing the warmth of your tea, the softness of your blanket, the smile of a neighbor you wave to on your morning walk. It could be writing one sentence in a journal or sitting quietly by a window. It could be choosing a piece of music that moves your heart before the world begins to speak. Whatever it is, let it be yours. Let it be real. And let it begin again every morning. The secret to living longer isn't found in fighting age. It's found in befriending time. And mornings are time's quiet gift to you. When you begin each day with awareness and care, you change the very chemistry of your brain. You reduce stress hormones, improve circulation, enhance digestion, and boost mood. But more than that, you reclaim the one thing that often slips through our fingers as we age: our sense of agency. You're not just alive. You are living. You are choosing. And you are capable of beginning again, no matter how many years have passed.